Okay, so this is just a little video I'm doing before a lady called Roma turns up here. She's going to come and interview me for a local community radio station, and I think the show's some sort of Desert Island Discs programme, because I've been asked to choose 5 of my favourite tracks to play on the radio. And she's also going to ask me about what I do on the farm and things like what I do with YouTube and just generally about my life and things. So I'm going to try and sort of patch in some sort of part of the recording that we're going to do. I'm not quite sure whether I'm going to video it all or whether I'm just going to play it over some pictures or something. But I can tell you the tracks I've chosen if you want to know, and some of them are a bit significant, some of them aren't. But Justin Timberlake, Can't Stop the Feeling, because obviously I made that video with the kids, which is fantastic. The Beatles, Paperback Writer. What else have I chosen? The Human League, Don't You Want Me Baby. Always a good anthem to sing along to. The Wurzels, Combine Harvester, which is a good favourite of mine. And what was the last one? I've forgotten what the last one is. Well, you'll have to listen to the radio interview to find out. But I'm not going to be able to play the music in the interview because of copyright issues with that. So you'll just have to listen to me talking, and then there'll be a little of a gap between where the music is. But anyway, on with the interview.
That's a minute.
Right, here we are with the lovely Roma, and she's come to talk to me. So Roma, what are you going to do tonight then?
Well, I'm going to ask you about farming, the countryside, where you're going with your farm and how much you like it. Because I know you do. I've seen you on YouTube.
Right.
I've seen the book.
Right.
I've seen the pictures.
So why did you contact me? How did you contact me? What was the basis of finding me?
Well, I contacted you because the ladybirds in Patchway told me how much they'd enjoyed your talk and how inspiring they found it. And I thought, oh, well, this chap might be all right. And then I saw you on YouTube and I thought, oh, we've got to get him on the programme.
Wonderful. So I'm going to set this up, and we might record a bit of you talking, or I might just dub over some pictures, but we'll crack on now then. Thank you very much, Roma.
Okay. Lots of people have got the concentration.
Let's just have a look at this. Are we on there? Can we see ourselves? Here we go.
We can see ourselves, yes.
Okay, action.
So, Richard, thank you so much for being on the programme. And you have got a farm, haven't you, locally?
That's right. We run a farm in Titherington, little village just outside of Bristol, not very far out of Bristol. And I run it with my brother Tom. And we're the classic small family farm, if you like, because it is family run and owned. And we only milk about 75 cows, British Friesian cows, black and white ones. So in this day and age, 75 cows isn't many. That's not a big herd. And also, as well as running that, we do a number of things with conservation management, a thing called higher level stewardship, which gives us funding to pay for things like tree planting, a bit of hedge laying, and some wildflower meadows. So it gives us quite a lot of scope to do interesting things on the land.
And have you always been a farmer, always interested in it?
I have, actually. Growing up on a farm, you're immersed in it right from a very early age. Yeah. I think a lot of people visit farms, but they have like a few hours there, go back. You know, if you live on a farm as a child, it's around you the whole time, you know. And my earliest memories are literally, I think my dad put me on the back of a cow, actually, and let me have a little ride. We didn't have a horse.
So I had
a cow ride, you know. So I must have been pretty young then, because I wouldn't be able to fit on one now.
Yeah.
And I've gone through numbers of different things. I've done a thing called Young Farmers Club, which I joined when I was sort of about 14, where you do lots of different activities. I went to agricultural college. I studied at Hartbury in Gloucester, near Gloucester. Did a national diploma in agriculture there. I've done a little bit of travelling off around different places, but I've sort of always done farming really.
And the family history, because your house at the farm is very old.
Pretty old, it is. It's just over 400 years old actually. And it is interesting because we have so much history there. I could open a drawer in the farmhouse and pull out my great-grandfather's top hat, because our family have been there since 1822, and because of that, no one's actually properly ever moved out. So you know when someone moves house, you usually clear everything out, and you just might leave all the rubbish behind for the next people, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, because no one's ever left, no one's ever properly cleared out. So there's literally all sorts of bits and pieces kicking around. It's a nice bit of heritage.
Yeah, and you've got flint, haven't you, in the fields?
We have
coins.
Yeah, interesting things you find. Because flint isn't a natural stone to this area. You know, if you go and try and find a flint in this area, you won't find it in a quarry or anything. And yet we find flints in some of our fields, and they're actually from. Well, I've got to be careful because I'm not a historian expert, but I think they're Neolithic and stuff. And they're flint scrapers they used. Early man used in his everyday utensils. And right through, we found Roman coins in the field. The odd ox shoe, because before horses were used for ploughs, they used oxes. So there's a lot of history around the farm, really.
And the size of the farm has increased?
Over time it has. I mean, I wouldn't like to say exactly how big it was when my dad had it, but we're 135 acres now and a few rented fields as well. In this day and age, that's not very big though, you know. But there is a difficulty now in the fact that how much it costs to really buy any more land, especially in this area. You know, you're talking £10,000 an acre. So if you've got another 10 acres, I know people don't necessarily know what that means, but that's a lot of money to pay just to put a few cattle on, really. And
do you chum up with other farms for sharing harvesters?
Well, that's interesting. We do. In a way, what happens nowadays is a lot of farmers, not just us, but a lot of people use contract farmers. And what I mean by that is that we hire in machinery and labour to do the work, because farm machinery has got bigger and bigger over even my lifetime and got a lot more expensive. And I'll give you an example of that: silage making, which is where we chop up grass in about May time. We chop grass in the field, bring it in and put it into a thing called a silage clamp, which is almost like a compost bin where you put in your grass clippings, but instead of them rotting down, we want to preserve them, so we seal them in plastic and they ferment. Now we use contractors to harvest that because their equipment was probably worth £250,000 and we only need it for one day, so we hire them in for the day. Quite a big bill for that day, but compared with us buying it. So that's what a lot of farmers do. They have contractors come round.
Right, so that's the first bit then.
Okay.
So yeah, done that bit. Now we're going to have a look at what attracted you to farming, and so tell us, how about the book and so on.
Yeah.
What is it you most enjoy? Tell us about your different things, the TV, the Open University.
The stuff like the Open University stuff is actually they've just had clips off me, so I haven't really had anything to do. They just bought clips off me to use off of YouTube. I mean, they just contact me and go, can we buy that clip? But so I haven't actually been involved with them, but certainly have had contact with them and stuff.
But you take that for granted, but the people going, I knew somebody who once had a clip on the Open University.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. So, so what attracted you to farming, Richard?
Well, I mean, for starters, I had a pretty good early start because I was already on the farm. But I think, to be honest, the main thing I like about farming is, there's a couple of things really. I really love the natural side of it. So people will see if they watch my videos on YouTube, I do quite a lot of things where I film just wildlife and stuff because I love that aspect. But also, and I was thinking about this today, what I get a buzz off of doing is where I really do something, where I'm working hard and it's really constant and I'm busy. I don't really like just sitting around. I'm a very active person. And it's the achievement of doing something, not necessarily just milking cows, but if I'm sort of laying a hedge or if I'm, building, I built a breeze block wall earlier in the year. Because a farmer it's quite funny actually what people's definition of a farmer is. I think a lot of people think we either just drive tractors or milk cows or something, but actually I'm a jack of all trades. So basically I could put a roof on a shed, I could build a wall, I can put a fence post in, I can drive a tractor, I can milk a cow, I can, we don't stop. And I like that versatility and I like that variation really. That's what I really like, the variation of it all.
Mm. And of course it is quite picturesque, isn't it?
It is in the spring. I can tell you, I'm not sure what the weather will be like when this is broadcast, but if you're looking out of the window now and it's chucking it down with rain, that's not my best day on the farm. My best day on the farm is a lovely spring day actually, and I can say one of my favourite places is this little bluebell wood we've got, and I think it's probably end of April, beginning of May. If you walk up there, you can walk through these bluebells and that is brilliant. And everyone, you know, if you've got a down day, I think the best thing to do is go for a walk in the countryside on a nice spring day, and it'll get you going, I think.
Yeah. And you're one of the farmers with a camera in your pocket, aren't you?
I am. Oh, hello. We got a little visitor on this.
Hello.
Do you want to say hello?
Say hello on my sound
Say hello,
device.
Hello.
This is Harry, and he's just come to nick the biscuits. You can take this upstairs to Jack. There you go.
2 for me and 1 for him.
Oh, there's going to be an argument later.
Brothers.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
That's little Harry, who does pop up on the YouTube videos every
He
now and then.
does. Yeah.
Sorry, where were we?
No, we're talking about the picturesqueness of it in spring.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody knows, don't they, Richard, your venture with your camera?
Well, they might be a little bit aware of me. If you Google me, you can find me richardcornock.co.uk, gives you a bit more detail. But yeah, basically, what I had the idea. I thought, wouldn't it be nice if I photographed our farm for a year? And I wasn't actually into photography. All I knew is I needed a little camera to take with me somewhere. So I went to a supermarket actually and just went, oh, that one looks all right. Because I like the look of it. I didn't know anything about cameras.
David Bailey runs again.
Rubbish, isn't it? And the thing is, one thing I knew, it was no good me having an SLR big camera, because obviously on a farm I'm active all the time. So I bought this little pocket camera and carried it with me for a year, taking photographs of everything. And I got to about, I think it was about November time, and I thought, what am I going to do with these pictures? So what I did, I went on to an internet website, and you know, you can get books made up, can't you? Like people do it of their kids or their holidays. I just did one of the farm, and I gave it to my parents for Christmas. And you know, that was the end of it really. But a lot of people said to me, oh, you ought to get that published, it's really good. And I was like, yeah, right. Because, you know, what do I know about publishing? Anyway, I went to, I contacted a local publisher, and sure enough, they actually said, we could publish this. And behold, it became a book.
Fantastic. And then you went on to do other things.
And it's led to other things. Let's stop this a minute. I'm going to have to go in.
Okay.
Do you want to play that back and see whether it's okay? Because it might be just thump, thump, thump. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
I thought I'd better stop it because they'll just be distracting. It's just Harry jumping up and down. Did it come out on the recording or not?
No, that'll be fine. But I'm just going to put this on my jacket to cushion it. Because,
Okay.
Yeah. So, so the book was published by...
Published by Amberley Publishing, which are based a little kind of publisher up by Stroud. They do books like a Through Time series where they history books where they do before and after pictures, like from a town that might be in 1900 and then go and see it in 2017. So it was a bit of a quirky one for them because they weren't used to publishing things like a year on a dairy farm. But it's quite interesting because it led to other things and I didn't expect them. It led from that I got onto Radio Bristol, where I did a feature with Ben Prater on BBC Radio Bristol called Get Off My Land! And some of your listeners might remember that. Hello. Sorry.
That's all right.
I just paused a bit. We've got a small child here. Right. You want a drink? Right, okay. What do you want? Water? Apple juice. There you go. See you in a bit. We just shut this door. See you in a bit, Harry, alright?
Aww.
I know, just funny, isn't it? Right.
Anyway, we were saying about it was Ben Prater. You were on the Ben Prater.
Yeah, I mean, I was on Ben Prater's. He was on the Drive Time show at the time actually, and it was really funny because all that happened. I did an interview with him about the book, and I said at the end of the interview, "You ought to come down the farm." And I didn't think I'd ever hear from him again because, you know, it's like a one-off comment. Anyway, he contacted me that day and said, you know, is it okay if I do come round? And he came round for half an hour and stayed for 2 years.
As all visitors do.
It was lovely, actually. I got on so well with Ben, and we did this feature, and it was just really nice because we did a bit of recording on the farm, but we also carried on doing stuff around Bristol or Thornbury and stuff. And we did a Radio Bristol sausage, the Bristol Blue sausage, and I'll never forget the chap who the listeners had to name the sausage, and the winner was Uncle Sluggy from Bedminster, and came up with a Bristol Blue, and it was pork and blueberries. And then we went to the local butchers and made pork and blueberry sausages.
Wonderful.
I loved it.
So did you rear the pig and?
No, we didn't rear the pig, but we it was a local butcher, so it wasn't like we got someone to make them and just chuck them out there and go, there you go. We actually went to his butcher shop and made the sausages, by hand with a proper machine, and they were really nice actually. And he won the Southwest Sausage Award with them.
Good.
So they can't have been half bad. But they're still there. I think Mike Perry at Alveston, he still sells them, I think. So you can go there and still buy them, I think.
Yeah.
They're very tasty.
And what about the other things you do? The NFU magazine?
That led on to a few other things. I did write a column for the National Farmers Union magazine called The British Farmer and Grower. I had a column there called Cornot's Corner, where I just wrote what I thought. I mean, I was sort of like, it's quite funny because I'm never attracted to writing, but when someone asks you, it's an opportunity, isn't it? So I had a go. And then things, I don't know, I just have a go at stuff really.
Like all the videos? Well,
this is where I'm sort of really at now, is that, and it's a funny thing to say, but I'm quite big on YouTube. If anyone who's listening to this and want to find out what I look like or what I do, if they go on YouTube and look up The Funky Farmer, I upload videos of my life on the farm, and it's very, what I think is why it's quite popular is that it's very real. Because what I film is what really happens, and it's small family farm. It's not everything's not brilliant. I haven't got brand new tractors. I haven't got the latest milking pile, the latest machine. It's really a basic farm that is out there, not one of these ones that is show farm like you might see, I hate to say, on Country File or something like that. Nothing's perfect on our farm. It's just real, and I try and show real life. So I show my kids playing on the farm. I also show tractors milking and cows and stuff, but also show problems we had. And an example of that, I'll give you a good example of what happened last week, is that we had two cows diagnosed with this thing called neosporosis. Now I'm sure you don't know what that is, because I didn't know what it is. It's actually a parasite from dog poo. And if people walk their dogs in a field where they're cattle and don't pick it up, they can catch this neosporosis, and it causes abortion and infertility in cattle. And two of our heifers, young cattle, were diagnosed with this last week from a blood test. They'd lost their calves because of the contamination of dog poo in grass. So there's something that I did a little video about that, just explaining, hoping that people would watch this and would actually go, well, if I'm walking in the field, I will pick my dog poo up. Because the thing is, I didn't know anything about this before, and you think if you're in a field, it doesn't really matter, does it? If you're in a park, you would, but
too many people just walk on.
Yeah.
They can't see their dog.
Yeah, exactly.
So it doesn't count.
No.
Yeah.
But to be fair on people, you think it does count. It doesn't matter. It's in the field, but actually it does, and it affected these two heifers, and they lost their calves because of it.
Will this mean they can't have more calves?
Quite possibly. So it's a real problem. But my videos aren't all doom and gloom. I did one where I danced on the tractor roof.
And you've got your boys on the farm.
Oh yes,
yeah.
Exactly. We like to do a lot of different things.
Yeah. Well, your videos, I think, are. How many have you made?
I think it's about 900 videos on YouTube now.
Yeah.
I tell you some interesting figures. I think I've got 22,000 subscribers. On average, about 500,000 views a month, which is incredible, really, isn't it? And people from all around the world watch it. So I get contact from people in America, Australia, Canada. In fact, one of the people sent my kids a load of toys at Christmas time from Canada.
Lovely.
And it was just like, this is incredible. And he just watched the videos and thought, send you a Christmas present. How nice is that?
That is so nice.
But I've also, some of the videos have been used by the Open University used some of the videos for silage making. They took those and used them to do with carbon capture, I think it was. And Stephen Fry's used some of the soundtrack in one of his productions on Radio 4.
It was English Delight, wasn't it?
Fry's English Delight, it was actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's nice that things go out there and you do these different things, really. Oh, and also, I better be careful what I say because I'm not going to name the person, but I actually am involved with someone with special needs in a place the other side of the country that use my videos. He's seriously autistic, and he uses they use the videos to teach him.
Lovely.
And I do actually make some private videos for him on the farm, which I send on a link, and they use those in their kind of everyday teaching with him.
What a lovely thing.
I had a beautiful email from the lady about it, and it was like, oh my god, I was really touched by that actually, So you do these things and you don't know what they do really,
No, you can't imagine what people on the other side of the world think when they see you with your cow, with your hand up a cow's bottom.
Well, I've never done a video of that yet. Come on, Rowan, you need to come round and do that. Let's get you on the farm.
Oh yes. Now that's the end of that bit.
Goodness, I'm rabbiting you. I have to edit a lot of this out.
No, this is very good though. No, just keep talking. That's the thing, because you can always cut it. Cut it down, but you can't put it there.
That's very true.
So I'm going to ask you about the work and equipment, the employees, aims and seasonal routines, planning and production, selling, markets, organisations like Muller's, supermarkets, chains, local shops, and about practicality, food miles, ground suitability, animal husbandry. Is some of that stuff too boring?
Well, we'll record it and you see what you think.
Yeah,
I don't mind what you cut out. Animal husbandry, probably don't bother with that.
Okay, won't bother.
What do you want me to say about animal husbandry?
Is it a big part of your job?
Well, it is every day, isn't it? I just look after animals.
Just look after animals.
But I take it for granted because I just do it every day. But
how much poo do you shovel up in the
How much poo? No one's ever asked me that. Quite a lot, actually. I'm a good poo shoveler.
I thought you were.
Do you know what? Someone actually said to me that being a farmer in the winter is just a glorified laboratory attendant, and that is absolutely true. Because if people don't know about cows or dairy cows, is that basically we bring them inside in November and they stay inside till the beginning of April. And the reason for that is a couple of reasons. One, the grass stops growing, so there's nothing for them to eat. Secondly, because they're dairy cows and they've got an udder which produces milk, when they lie on wet soil and mud, they'll get a thing called mastitis, which is like clots in the, but it looks a bit like cottage cheese, to be honest, when it comes out. It's not very nice for the cows, an infection of the udder. So you don't want them lying out in a wet, cold field. So, and they also will just tramp up the field as well. So we bring them inside. So basically, for 5 months a year, I've got a lot of animals because we've got 70 odd cows, but we've also got all young animals as well. So we've got about 130, 140 animals inside in buildings that I've got to clean out twice a day. And all that poo's got to go out somewhere. So I'm basically a lavatory attendant for 5 months a year.
That's obviously the high spot of the job.
Oh, totally.
And what about your everyday routine? For example, spring day.
I can tell. Well, let's start with the cows coming in, because that's quite a good spot. I mean, for 5 months of the year, I am basically, what I'm doing is feeding and cleaning cows. Okay, so now we're into February, and basically what I'm doing is I go into work today. I will milk the cows, and then my brother will turn up. We'll swap over. I'll go out and clean up. I call it scraping out, but I'm scraping the poo out of where their bedding is. Put fresh bedding down for them and make sure they've got enough feed. And then I can go off and do a few day jobs. So at the moment in January and February, I'm hedge trimming, which I'm trimming all the hedges. If you ever go around the countryside, you'll see farmers out trimming hedges. So that's my routine from about November till beginning of April. Come April, about the best day of the year is when you open the gate and let the cows out for the first time that year, and they go running out, and then things start getting really busy. We have to put fertiliser on the fields to make the grass grow, and then when the grass is grown in about May, I then get the contractors in, which I talked about earlier. They'll come and cut the grass for silage making. So then that goes into the clamp for the winter, and then through the summer, then while I'm milking the cows and they're out in the daytime, I'm also making hay, and I'm also making more silage, making round bale silage. But I'm also trying to grow a crop of a thing called maize, which is looks like sweet corn, but it's actually for cows' feed, not for people. And we chop up the whole plant, and we harvest that in October time, and that goes into a clamp to feed with the grass silage. So it's very full on the whole time. I never stop. I'm got to milk the cows twice a day. A lot of people don't realise that. You milk them once in the morning, once in the afternoon.
Early?
Well, I if you want to come with me tomorrow, Roma, 5:30, could you join me for that?
I should think you're a lone man at 5:30.
There's not many people on the road, I can tell you, at that time of day. I'm there at 5:30 with a good cup of coffee, and then I'm milking them again in the afternoon. So,
and actually, it's for the cow's comfort, isn't it? Because if you
Yeah.
if you didn't milk them,
I'll tell you an
They suffer.
interesting thing, right? You know when the clocks go back, so they go back an hour and you get an extra hour in the bed, cows don't like that because they don't know the clocks have gone back. So you get there an hour late and they're waiting at the gate going, what time do you call this? I'm ready to be milked. Seriously, they do, because they're very much animals, they're quite placid, dairy cows, and they're very much used to routine and things. So they have their own pecking order. When they come into the milking parlour, certain ones will only go into the certain side of the milking parlour, and certain ones will only come in at the start, and certain ones will only go in at the end of the milking. I've got one, number 819, because they've got numbers on them so we can identify them, that will only go in one side of the milking parlour and will only come in at the end of milking. You try and get her in at the start of milking, she won't have it. She's like, oh no, I'm not doing that.
have they got names?
They have got names. My dad named every single cow. I think it's a lot of ex-girlfriends actually.
That's a good one.
They have got names, yeah. He did name them all.
How long do you keep them?
How long's a piece of string? If we're talking on practical terms on a dairy cow, because we don't keep them into their old age, because obviously they've got to pay for themselves. I mean, that sounds a bit harsh, but realistically, when a cow becomes too lame, or you can get problems with the milk, you can get mastitis repeatedly and things like that, then they go off and they go off to the abattoir. But because we're a very low intensity dairy farm, we're not a high yielding pushing one, we can keep cows, some of them would be 10, 15, 12 years old maybe, some of the older ones. If some of the bigger intensive dairy units, they'll push them through and they'll get rid of them after 4 or 5 years. But we're not really like that, we kind of keep them going. They have a very kind of chilled life, if you like. But there's no old people's home for dairy cows, unfortunately.
No.
No.
Not surprisingly. Selling. Who do you sell to? Because I know you've had a big thing going with Tesco's, haven't you?
Well, that was a few years ago. I was involved with Tesco's as doing a thing called local choice milk, and I was a cardboard cutout in 40 Tesco's around the country, actually, a life-size version of me next to a milk bottle.
It was terrifying.
It was. I should put people off their milk, I should think, when they were buying it. But I no longer supply Tesco's, not because of any falling out with Tesco's, but I was part of a cooperative called Dairy Farmers of Britain, and unfortunately they went bankrupt. They were a cooperative of 2,500 UK dairy farmers, and I don't know how many years ago, a few years ago, it went bust. Unfortunately, it was a disaster. Really, we lost a lot of money, and so then I went to find another buyer, and we ended up going to a company called Dairy Crest, who have recently, last year, got bought out by Muller. You've probably heard of Muller Corners and stuff, the yogurts. Well, I now supply to a company called Muller, who basically, our milk goes to Stonehouse near Stroud. And then I'm not 100% sure what happens to it there, whether it goes into fresh milk or whether it goes into the yogurts and stuff, because they do different things up there, so it's up to them what they do with it. So we sell to Muller, that's where it goes now, really.
Aims. Yeah. As far as it goes, you aim to keep your cows as healthy as possible and produce as much milk as possible.
Yeah,
within reason.
It's a balance, really. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm never going to be the best farmer or the best, have the best dairy herd, but we try and run everything in a balance. I think there's a point where if you push things too much, what's the point in that, really? I don't want to be on a treadmill of production and stuff, but at the same time, we've got to make a living. It's very hard on a dairy farm now because the milk price is quite poor, so you can't let things slide and just go, we don't put enough feed into that animal or whatever.
Is it true that water costs more than milk?
Well, it does, doesn't it? I mean, I can't believe I can't bring myself to buy a bottle of water.
Good.
I can't face buying water because what's the point of a bottle of water is so much more money than milk, but the work that goes into milk is incredible.
And the plastic bottle is just rubbish.
Well, it is, isn't it? And I like to think that when you buy a milk, if you buy our milk anyway, that money is not just going into supporting that cow, but it's also going to support the wildlife and the landscape we've got. because on our farm, I love planting trees and looking after the hedgerows and stuff. I've just bought 100 hedging plants the other day to fill in the gaps in the hedgerows, because hedgerows are wildlife corridors, and if you've got a complete hedge, then things like a badger or a fox can go along that hedgerow without any worry about predators and things like that. Or, well, fox is a predator, isn't it? But birds can nest in it, and you can create an environment that's good for wildlife, and I love all that side of farming, really.
Because you have been chosen, haven't you, for a special scheme? Is it
HLS, Higher Level Stewardship? Yeah, that was a very good scheme, actually. It's still running now, but I think it's probably going to change when Brexit happens. It's government funded, and basically it gives money to farmers like me for environmental projects. And a couple of the ones I've done is I planted a new orchard on the farm. Do you know, if anything has bring me the most joy of what I've done on the farm, it's planting that orchard. Because what I did it as a community orchard, and invited, I think it was 28 families to come and plant the trees. And I gave each family member a tree, and I said, but the end provision was they had to put a time capsule under it. So they each planted a tree with a time capsule, and then I fenced it, because I've got to fence it for so long so they're big enough to the cattle don't eat them, because cattle do like eating trees. And then what I've done, I put a little plaque on them that says the name of the variety and the name of the family, and the kids have come back. We do a thing called Farm Fest once a year, where they all come and camp and we look at the trees and stuff like that. And we did that. We planted the trees in November 2010, and so that was 7 years ago. And it's only now really the trees are just starting to get established, because it takes a long time, because when you first plant them they're only little tiny spindly things, and we're year 7. I think this year will be the first year where we probably start getting some decent crops of fruit off them. But it's lovely because an orchard isn't just for my lifetime, it's for another couple of generations, because an apple tree at least 100 years and a pear tree maybe 150 years. So I've planted that tree, I won't see it at its best probably.
What varieties did you plant?
Lots of different ones, actually. They're all, the part of the reason I received funding under Higher Level Stewardship is that I was putting back a traditional orchard of old varieties. I haven't planted one of these modern fruit farms where they're in a big row and they're really productive. I've put some quirky stuff in, so I've got one called Seven Bank, I've got Beauty of Bath, Ashmead Kernel. Ashmead Kernel's a lovely apple. Things like Bramleys. I've also got ones called Hen's Turds, actually. That's a cider fruit.
Oh, you would.
Now, what do you reckon the cider's going to taste like from one called Hen's Turds? Let's beat that one. I don't know what it'd be like, but I don't imagine, but it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Every kid wanted that one.
I bet they did.
We had a lucky dip on that, because it was like everyone, I want the Hen's Turds. It's a good name for a tree, though.
Very good.
So, as a project, I do get a lot of joy out of that, because I love seeing the fact that I can see something growing and getting bigger, and I feel it's like putting something back into the environment, really.
Mm. Yeah, and you've also done seed planting, haven't you?
Yeah, we did that as well. That was funded under High Level Stewardship. I replanted a traditional meadow with some wildflower seeds. Very interesting on that as well is that I did get some school kids involved with that. We got wildflower seeds. How much do you think a tonne of wildflower seeds costs?
£500.
Bit more. One more guess.
£700.
£136,000.
£136,000?
Yes. I was allocated, okay, when in this project started, I was allocated £2,000 for wildflower seeds, okay, and I thought, wow, that's going to get me loads. And then they had a budget cut, grants and things were cut, and ended up getting about 450, and I topped it up with 600 with some of my own money. We got 600 quid, and I went to the seed company to buy it, and I've got £600. And I basically got to carry a bag of seeds. And I put this in perspective, probably a tonne of milling wheat, which you make bread from, is about 140 quid. Yes. So, but if you think about it, wildflowers are very tiny. So to get a tonne, like if you've got a cowslip, the seed on it is minute. So to get a tonne, you need a lot of flowers. And there are farms in the east of the country that just grow wildflower seeds. Mm. But then I invited kids from a local school. We planted the seeds in the field. And I planted them, I think about 5 years ago, and it's only now that it's just starting to show, because when I first planted them I thought it would be a carpet of flowers, but it wasn't. next year was pretty rubbish, really. And it's taken me 5 years to realise how things work, is that you get a little bit of establishment here and there, and then it slowly builds. It's not a big show and tell. If you see wildflowers on the side of the road, you know sometimes you drive down a road and you see a wildflower bank. These are different because those are things called cornfield annuals, and they're really showy, but they last for 1 year and then they die out and they're gone forever. Whereas what I put in was perennial wildflower seeds, which are hay meadow ones. They're different. They're not showy in the same way. So they're not like, you won't go, wow, look at that field.
Yeah.
But it'll be, when you walk out there, you'll see things like oxeye daisy and yellow rattle and different things like that are really good for bees and things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, a bit like the orchard, it's something that, you know, I'm leaving a bit of a legacy, hopefully, behind. Unless someone comes and sprays it when I'm dead, and chops the trees down for firewood, and I don't know what'll happen then.
What, and builds on it, you mean?
Yeah, so, you know, what is a legacy, I don't know. But if I can do my little bit, that's what it's about, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know?
And you have got a place in the community, haven't you?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you have got a relationship with schools.
Oh, yeah. So, well, that was nice, actually, because off the back of that, the school then went and planted some wildflowers, a wildflower meadow at their school, and then also did some wildflowers around the village. And, you know, it's quite funny because you don't know what effect you're having, isn't it? Because these kids have had a bit of inspiration of planting some wildflower seeds and given them an opportunity maybe they wouldn't have got before, really. Mm. I think having kids as well, myself, as you heard Harry earlier,
oh yeah,
you kind of, you start realising what kids like and stuff, really, you know?
It's that perpetuity, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, the
Well,
long
also
term.
kids find wonder in little things, don't they? You know, which as an adult you kind of go, yeah, we'll just chuck a few seeds down, be all right. Yeah. Once you give a kid that, they get quite fun out of it, don't they?
They do. Now the next thing, Brexit.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay. We're still running on that. So
yeah, I think we are. Yeah. Has farming changed in your how farming has changed in your lifetime?
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
I'll talk about a bit about social media then as well. Because farming
social media
and go into Brexit. Which you want to do first? You choose.
Social media.
Okay, that includes how farmers change. Really, start with that. And then
yeah. Right. So Richard, things are hugely different, aren't they, from your dad's day?
They are, because it's quite funny actually. When my dad was a boy, there was 2 shire horses on our farm, and a ploughman from the village used to come down and plough behind them, walk behind them and plough them. And I never saw that. They left our farm in 1952, and my dad bought a tractor then, little grey Fergie. Bought it from College Green Motors at Ashton Gate, actually. Oh. Yeah, we still got it. One owner from you. I didn't like to get rid of it, but it's quite funny how machinery has changed on farming even in my lifetime. Because when I left college, people were still using these little grey Fergies and small tractors, and I'd say in the last, 10 to 15 years, the machinery has just gone massive. The scale that people are driving around in now, the tractors are really big, the machinery's got really big. I had a chap come into the farm, and he was a rep. He was just driving this tractor for someone else to deliver it, but he called in with something. Came in with this New Holland, no, it wasn't New Holland, it was a Fendt. And I said, how much is that tractor? And he said, ooh, if you want to buy that new, that's £240,000. I was like, really? Oh, okay. We'll be having one of those then. But it was a sort of tractor that wouldn't be used around here. It was a tractor that would be used probably more over in Wiltshire, where there's a lot more big arable farms. But the difference is, you know, when my dad was a lad, when people bought tractors, the tractors weren't anywhere near like that. It's the same price as a house. You know, I don't think they were buying tractors that cost the same price as a house in 1956.
But you see people driving them up and down in the night, don't you? With lights on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's partly because of the intensity of when you have to do harvesting or silage making. It's all got to be done right, you know, because something like harvesting grain, you need to have a certain moisture content below a certain level of moisture. So when that moment is right, you've got to harvest it then. You can't wait because it might rain and then it's totally ruined. But yeah, so the size of machinery and also the size of farms has got a lot bigger in my lifetime. Dairy herds like ours are quite rare. They're usually a lot bigger now. And also moving on to things like social media, I tell you something that's really changed in my lifetime is I don't feel isolated on the farm like I probably did 10 to 15 years ago. And that is through things like Facebook, having my mobile phone is actually linked to the internet now. 10 years ago or 15 years ago, your mobile phone didn't do that, did it? It was like a blocky Nokia or something. Whereas now I can be in the middle of a field, I can be on Facebook or something, chatting to someone, texting someone can send me a silly picture, and that is wonderful for someone in a job like mine, because I don't think people can quite understand how socially isolating it can be on a farm. Because if you think your job, how many people in a day do you think you see? 50. I'd be lucky some days if I just see my brother, and I see my brother every day, so there's not a lot of new.
No.
And so I'm in the middle of the field, I've seen my brother, and that's it. I see a fox, and a couple of blackbirds. Whereas having social media and that means that I'm not on a desert island anymore. And I hope that people, it's actually interesting, not just for a farming point of view, but I think for people who may be a little bit lonely and living, in an isolated situation, people need to do things like Facebook. I know some generations think Facebook, oh, that's terrible and things. But really, it links you up with people and can make your life really interesting,
Skyping, Instagram,
exactly,
WhatsApp.
All that stuff. It changes your life's like, really. And I've found that from a farming point of view really helpful.
Yeah, that's really good.
I've got a Facebook page for the Funky Farmer, actually. If anyone's on Facebook, look up the Funky Farmer and you can see a few bits of what I do on there.
Can you just give me your Funky Farmer address?
What do you mean?
Just say it so that anybody...
Oh, what you mean on YouTube or something?
Yeah, because it's funkyfarmer.org, is it?
Oh, what you mean? Well, my website is richardcornott.co.uk.
Yeah.
But if you go onto YouTube, I am the Funky Farmer. I think a few people have copied me, actually. It's quite funny because you know how you start something and then people think... So I think there's some people like Funky Farmer the One or something like that. Because it's funny, because I know Jeremy Vine is the Jeremy Vine, because I think someone had already used the name Jeremy Vine. But on YouTube, I am the Funky Farmer. And you'll notice me because you'll see a Wally who jumps on the top of a tractor roof or something like that.
That's true. Not many people would, Richard.
I did a dancing video. I did one with Justin Timberlake, actually, and the kids. I know you've seen that one, but what's the song I like? I've chosen one of my 5 tracks is Justin Timberlake, Can't Stop the Feeling.
Can't Stop the Feeling.
Well, I've done a video to that song with the kids dancing, so that's on YouTube as well. Type in Justin Timberlake and the Funky Farmer and you'll see me with the kids giving it some.
Brilliant. Now, Brexit.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, how is Brexit going to affect you, Richard?
Well, I'll tell you what it has done. It's put a lot of uncertainty onto our farming income. Now, rightly or wrongly, farmers receive a subsidy, called the single farm payment. And on our farm, we receive that every year. We have to do a number of different things, We have to do some sort of environmental thing, and we've got to do a number of standards, things that have got to be to a certain level, And in return, we get this subsidy. Now, I don't necessarily think subsidies are a good thing, because really markets should provide me with the right income. I should be getting enough for my milk. Why should I have to get a subsidy from anyone? No one should pay a farmer subsidy, I don't think. But the way the market's skewed now is that I don't get very much money from milk. But the EC, or is it Europe anyway, it's not EC anymore. Europe pays a thing called single farm payment, so all farmers in Europe, Now, once Brexit comes, I have no guarantee that the English government are going to pay the equivalent of the single farm payment. And that, to be honest, that's very worrying from my farming point of view, because the last year we've had a terrible year. I can honestly say that, I'm not exaggerating. It's been really touch and go with the income on the farm because the milk price has been terrible. And the single farm payment has kind of saved us, if you like. It's been a lifeline because we knew that money was coming. I don't know whether we're going to get that in 2020, it's guaranteed till. After 2020, the government might go, we'll give you nothing. What happens then is it makes it very difficult for me if the milk price is still low, but also I don't know how we're going to be able to compete in Europe if the rest of Europe's still getting a single farm payment, because they're effectively a subsidy on what they produce and we don't, because then we're not in we're not in a level market. So we're trying to sell, if we're trying to sell, say, cheese against European cheese, theirs is subsidised, ours won't be if we don't get it. So it makes it very difficult. And also, again, the high level stewardship which paid for the orchard and the wildflower meadow, that all came from EUC or European money. Well, I don't quite know whether the government will then think we'll still do that, or whether they'll think we'll spend on the NHS, which, because there's a lot of pulls on money, isn't there? So it's a lot of uncertainty at the moment, really. That would be my biggest worry, as to whether we're financially able to keep going if we don't get a subsidy.
Now, another challenge, which I've seen in one of your YouTubes, security. Do farmers suffer security problems?
Oh, big time. What, you mean theft on farms?
Theft, trespass. We've already spoken about dog poo.
Yeah. It is a big issue in farm. I think it's probably a big issue everywhere, isn't it, theft? But the thing is, on a farm, it's quite an open place. I mean, generally speaking, you go around a lot of farms and the buildings are open, because naturally you can't keep locking every tractor up and everything. And it can be a real issue on farms, is that people do think it's a nice idea to nick a tractor or a quad bike or a Land Rover, or
because a tractor doesn't strike me as the kind of thing you'd actually want.
Oh, believe me, there's a massive market for tractors, and I'll be careful what I say, but Eastern Europe is a very popular place where a lot of where a lot of tractors end up.
How would you get one there?
Oh, quite easily in a shipping container, or you break them down into parts. Land Rover, I think it was on. It was either on the One Show or Countryfile or something not that long ago, only last week, where they showed a chap how you could strip a Land Rover down in about an hour to break it up to sell it. Because something like a Land Rover is very much a bolt together machine. It's not welded, all the panels come off, and Land Rover is one of the hottest things to steal, actually, and they just basically strip them down and sell them. It's unfortunate that's what happens.
And people walk across your land?
They do. I mean, I could say lucky. I don't mean this in a nasty way, because I don't think there's anything wrong with anyone going on a footpath, but I'm quite lucky that we haven't got a lot of footpaths on the farm, because for every, say, 100 people that have got the right intention, there might be someone who's out there going, wonder what he's got around here. Oh, I could steal that.
Nobody wants a footpath through their garden. You probably don't want one through your farm.
Exactly, but at the same time, I quite like to chat and engage with the people on footpaths, because usually they're really pleasant and then we have a nice chat and go on, but I wouldn't want a footpath through the farmyard, I think.
No.
I've actually I gave talks to Ramblers, actually, the Bristol Ramblers. I gave a talk to them a few months ago.
But you see, the Ramblers aren't likely to be the troublemakers.
No, that's right,
Yeah. It's people on mud bikes and things, possibly, that you...
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be careful, because I don't want to sound like grumpy old farmer, get off my land, even though that was my catchphrase on Radio Bristol. I only meant that in a kind of jokey way. And I think, if anyone's sensible walking on the farm, on farm, then that's fine, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Shut the gate if you open it. Don't let your dog run amongst cattle, because cattle will cause an issue, especially sheep. Don't let your dog run amongst sheep. And pick up your dog poo.
Yeah. And if they do that, you won't run after them with a gun.
I haven't done that yet.
Right. I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, we're done.
I don't think was there anything that you...
No, that's fine.
I think that's it.
Brilliant.
Wow.
That's a relief,
thank you very
isn't it?
much.
Hey?
Well, thank you ever so much.
Well done.
Thank you for your time.
That's all right.
I didn't drink my tea.
Yeah,
I suppose you've no...
Let's turn it off.
Yeah, I was going to say, I suppose you've got no intention